everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to be doing some Tainsky steampunk jewelry. Now, I love this set. I do. I really like it. I know. I'm a little bit weird, but hey, there you go. Anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some mud clay, okay? And we're also going to bring in this. I love it. It's the mythical creature set. And I know I'm not using the mythical creatures. I know you guys are like, come on, use the fun ones. I'm like, I know. But I wanted to create this, I was kind of like, okay, what do I do, right? Well, this is what I wound up doing. Okay, I will come back to the creature some other time, some other day, I promise. But for right now, I'm bringing in that mud clay, and I'm bringing in my Deco Art Amethyst paint, and I'm just using my finger to smear the paint over the surface of my mud clay. And that mud clay was rolled out like, I want to say like on a #1 setting, #2. Pretty much my thicker setting. And the reason for that is because when I bring in my cutter, and mind you, this was, the paint was dry, okay? The paint was dry when I did this. However, that said, I think I really don't mind using these cutters while the paint is wet. Okay, the reason why I like that is because sometimes that paint, that acrylic paint, when it's still wet, it acts a little bit like a release agent because it's like water. It's got that fluid thing going, right? In this case, of course, the paint is dry, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut out these forms. Now, mind you, this was, the two cutters, the other one that goes in the center is all its own, and notice it kind of popped out. See how that popped out and it didn't, the center didn't? Well, that's the thing. When it's a little bit dry, that can happen, okay? So you might want to go ahead and use some baby powder or even a little bit of a spray bottle water thing going on. That's fine too. However, that all said, I did kind of like doing it where the paint was, not dry. Now, if you do that though, make sure you put your cutters into like a dish of water so that the old paint or whatever comes off as soon as possible. Now, as you can see there, I went ahead and I used that smaller cutter to make the insert piece, and I'm going to take it out of its center right there. And I'm going to make a number of these pieces. And then once I do, we'll go ahead and start adding in some real fun to this. Okay, so I've gotten all these pieces cut out, and if you need to, if you had a little bit of paint that kind of came off, just take a little bit more with your finger. Make sure you cover up those areas where it looks like they didn't get completely covered. Once this is done though, go ahead and take all of these pieces and bake them in your oven at 275 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes, at least for me. Again, wherever you live, it might vary just a little bit. So check your climate, check your altitude, all that kind of thing. Now, I'm bringing in my steampunk gears, and I will have the video on that where I really showed you how I created these gear forms in, I want to say in the putty stuff. So I'll have that in the description area, so if you need that, you can go and look for it. And then now we're going to also be bringing in our black liquid clay. Now, I have not used this much at all. I really haven't. I've never really shown you guys how I've used it. But here I wanted to use it in the gears, and you're probably thinking, why did you not use the translucent or whatever? Okay, I'm taking out a step here. Part of this is if I went with just the pure clear trans or the translucent, it's clear, right? I'm going to have to paint it. Well, I didn't want to paint it. So instead of that, instead of painting it black, because I'd want to paint it black at the very beginning, instead of painting it black, I'm going to go ahead and use the black liquid clay. And this got messy, okay? This got messy, and I was like, doggone it, why is this? You know, I had clay everywhere. My fingers were just, it was nuts, people. It was nuts. So I'm like going, how can I make this not be such a problem? Oh my gosh, because, you know, creating these, you know, these molds and stuff and putting that liquid clay, it can be a pain, all right? How do I get this in there without getting it everywhere? And mind you, next time I'm going to be using rubber gloves. That's what I should have done. But if I don't use rubber gloves, how do we deal with this? Okay, so I thought, okay, how do we deal with it? And this was my solution. I'm taking some double-sided tape here, and I'm placing it down on my tile, and then I'm going to place my form on there. And mind you, this one had already been baked, but you know, I thought, okay, if I do this again, would it work? Well, I thought, first off, we need to scrape off the extra. And this was an important step. So you try to get it as, you know, I want to say as thin as possible, where in the areas where that clay is not going to go down, okay, where it's going to be open. But then use your blade to scrape away the rest of it on the actual mold itself, because those molds can handle that. And then just take that out and look at that, it's clean, no problem, right? So I thought, you know what, that tape helped keep that particular mold down when I did this. What would happen if I brought in fresh liquid clay? So right here, I took a clean tile, and I scraped away all the black, right? Clean tile, and you might notice there just a little bit, there's a piece of that double-sided tape on the tile, okay? Place that down, and then placed the little molds down on there. And then of course I brought in my powder to go ahead and do these up so that they would be, now you could tell that one fell off, okay? This is not guaranteed by any means, all right? But I thought maybe it would help keep it from moving all over the place while I'm trying to get that liquid clay in there. And it did work. You know, and see, you know, it wasn't sticking real good, so I had to put another piece of tape down, and then that little one went on to another piece of tape. But in doing so, I was able to put some black liquid clay, like I got one more time here. I'm going to place that into the mold itself. And as I was doing so, you know, I usually use a credit card, and that works, a credit card or any kind of plastic card to help take off the top of that clay off of your mold. Well, you know what? You can also use your blade. And I love that. Use the back side though, not the sharp one, not the sharp side. Use the back side of that blade to scrape it off. Now you don't have to have it perfect, because you'll come back in after this is baked and just lightly scrape off the top of the mold to take off the excess. And this way then you'll have a clean form that will come out of it. Now once you get each of these molds filled up with that black clay, you're going to go ahead and you're going to take them off of there so that you could take the tape off. You have to take the tape off. Okay, don't put that in the oven with the molds. Just take the tape off, use your blade to bring those pieces of tape up, and then place the molds on the tile and bake those 275 degrees for about 15 minutes or so. Again, you know, when it comes to the time on baking, that's going to be kind of what your climate is and where you live. Anyways, I'm bringing in my Splendid, okay, this is the Deco art paint now, right? This is going to be the Splendid Gold and the Shimmering Silver that I used to go ahead and paint up some of these gears. And this is after they've been baked, so you just go ahead and paint them up as best you can. Okay, so while I was painting up these gears, I realized, I really need another color. Other than just the silver and the gold, I needed another color. And so I made some smaller gears, and I brought in my folk art copper paint, and I painted those up because I thought I really need that extra. I know, I keep thinking in the Olympics, you know, gold, silver, bronze. In this case, copper, you know. But I decided to go ahead and paint up these gears, and then we'll go ahead and use these gears into our jewelry set overall. Okay, now we're going to start moving into creating our earring set. And I'm bringing in my eye pins here. And I want you to notice when I create that little hook where I like to embed the eye pin, I'm doing that little hook right towards the top of that eye pin. I want it fairly short, and the reason is because these rings are not that wide, okay? I want that eye pin buried so it's not seen, but I know if I go down too far, it'll be too long. So you got to make it kind of short. I'm also bringing in a black ball of clay here. This is about 5/8 of an inch in diameter, and I'm going to roll it out into a little log. Once I have that log rolled out, and I want to say it was about 2 inches long here, I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'll cut those two pieces in half again. Now, mind you, when you do this, this was kind of a little bit of a guesstimate, okay? When I place this into the design overall, you can make these a little taller or a little shorter. It just kind of depends on your preference. But I'm bringing in my liquid translucent clay. I'm going to put a little bit on the back of these pieces that have already been baked, and I'll use a little super glue as well to make sure it gets adhered down onto this fresh black clay, which was rolled out on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. Now, once I get this circle adhered into place using my glue and the liquid clay, I'm going to bring in my smaller piece, and I'm going to lay that right towards the top there, and then I'm just going to cut out the black right underneath it, okay? Now, this is fairly, I want to say, rough. It's not a clean needle cut, or, you know, as I would call a needle cut. I'm going to just be lifting this out for the most part. I just want to get an idea of how much black I'm going to need without cutting too much away. And what I mean by that is we're going to take this part. See, I've been able to go in just a little bit. I'm going to bring in one of those little tiny logs, and I've cut away the extra black. Make sure it's all cleaned up. I'm going to take one of those little tiny logs, and I thought, even when I put it in, it seemed like it was a little too tall. I cut that in half again, but before I did, I placed down a little bit of my liquid clay. I thought, okay, this is going to be good, right? Well, like I said, you can see right there, I cut it in half again. Had to do it, right? And then, yeah, that's more like a 1/4 of an inch tall. And that was tall enough. So I placed that down, and then I came back in with my, my gears here, and I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I place this in? And once I figured out where it was, I pushed down on that, you know, unbaked clay and made sure that it was set in there pretty well, brought my cover piece, and then placed that on top of that. And then I lifted that back out, brought my needle tool back in eventually, and cut away the extra black that I had there. Once I got that done, though, I needed to make a second piece because we're doing the earring set. So I brought in another hook, recut another little hook there for myself, and then brought in another one of those larger circles, placed that down again with the liquid clay and with the super glue. And then once I had that in place, I just redo what I had done before. The only difference here is that that gear was set off to one side on the right earring, okay? I need to have this thing mirror the other side. So it's going to be more off onto the left side. So I brought in my gear and I thought, okay, yeah, place it down. And I was trying to get it as, you know, where it would look like it's okay, it matches up really well. You might not be perfect, but hey, you know, it still works really good. You really can't tell the difference once you place this down. I would just say that when you're making that cover piece, make sure the cover piece is centered underneath your eye pin, and that gear where the hole is opening up there, make sure that opening is where you see it on one side and the other. From here, once I have that set, I take the cover pieces off and then take off the extra black and then bake that at 275 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to start moving into the main pendant piece, and you could tell right here, this is mimicking pretty much what I had done with the earrings, except you're going to take that gear and you're going to move it up into your left-hand corner. Now you could go on the right, whichever way you want, that's fine. But I'm placing that silver gear up there, and then I'm going to come in with my one of my smaller purple discs, and I'm going to place that with a little bit of liquid clay and a little bit of super glue just beneath the main circle. All right. Once you have that down, you're going to go ahead and just, get that as centered as possible. That's the main thing here. Once you have that though, I thought, okay, got to bring in that other main piece just so I can see what it is. And then you're going to start to trace out this entire piece, lift the extra black away, and then we're going to start decorating this up as you trim away also any extra black that you have on the outside of the main pendant area here. Once I got all of this kind of trimmed up, I decided to bring in all of my little gears. So I've got my gold, my silver, my bronze, and I brought in my liquid clay, and I thought, let's go ahead and put that silver gear in along with the top piece, okay? And I did. I put a little super glue down. I was like, yeah, okay, we're gonna go ahead and put this in and put that top piece in. However, in doing this, when I placed these two pieces down, I realized, wait a minute, I want to go ahead and paint up more detail on the main round circle here. Oh, Laura. And when I did, I thought, okay, well, fine. So I ripped off the top part. And when I did, I was so, I didn't realize it, but I thought, oh, I only used my liquid clay on that, so it came off real easy. Yay me, I did something good there. So I'm not dealing with super glue. So, sometimes be careful with the super glue as to what you glue down. You see right there, I didn't have the glue down on the super glue on that little black spot area. I was able to take that top part off. But anyway, I brought in my copper then, and I thought, yeah, I want to go ahead and I want to start adding in detail to the larger ring. So I brought in my, I want to say it was the copper, and then I added in a little bit of silver around onto that larger ring. And then I also placed it down into the smaller piece down below too, as well as the cover piece that'll go back into the top part of the pendant. Once I have this all painted up, I'm going to bring that top part back in. I'll add in a little bit more of that liquid clay and my super glue. I'll adhere it back in, and then I'll just start to assemble this thing in one piece overall. So from here, really, I'm going to go ahead. I'll let you guys watch my hands talk as I finish putting together the pendant piece here. All right, so now I'm coming back to my earrings, and I thought, okay, we're going to do a little bit differently than we did the pendant because I learned a little bit there. And that was, I needed to paint up these circles. So I brought in that copper yet again, and I brought in the silver, and I started painting up each of these individually, giving those nice, wonderful little details right on the circle parts of this earring set. Once I got all of the details put into the set of earrings, you know, I thought, okay, we got to bring in those gears. We got to place in our glue, make sure it's all good. Now, you could use a little bit of liquid Sculpey, but at this point, I really had decided not to bake anymore. This was pretty much just a glue job, so use your super glue. And I placed these in so that they were mimicking, or I should say mirroring each other. And make sure those eye pins are right, you know, dead center in front of you where they're, you know, pointing north, if you will. And then have that together. Once you have this together, though, I really liked this, but I really wanted to bring in a little more warmth. Remember those gold gears I had made? I didn't use them. I didn't use them in the pendant, right? So I'm not going to use them in the earrings. And I wanted, this was a little bit too cold. So I used that super glue to make sure it adheres up onto that middle disc right there. And then I brought in my gold, and I thought, let's go ahead, and there's a nice little edge there around each earring. Let's go ahead and gently and very delicately paint a nice line around that. And then I even decided to paint the side area on that earring because I thought it'll look good, it'll finish it up, and it'll give that nice warm kind of effect I really wanted to pull in here. So at this point, I had to finish up bringing in some of that gold paint around onto the pendant piece. I had pretty much done up the earrings already, and they looked pretty good. But again, to me, it still wasn't enough. I was missing just a little bit more of that warmth into these pieces. And I was like, okay, so where could I place this? And I thought, yeah, let's go ahead and take that gold and let's place it down onto that smaller little piece that I had put the detail on, right? I just thought it would be a perfect place to start and finish if you really think about it. I mean, why not, right? I mean, that gold really made the necessary added detail I needed to add in the warmth to this overall set. It really added in. So from here, I went ahead, I added in more of that gold detail, and then I also brought in some more black balls. I brought in two more pieces of the copper gears onto the earring pieces. I thought, yeah, we need a little bit more there. And then I also brought in some metallic gears and added that into the overall set and then finished it all up. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk as I finish up this Tainsky Steampunk set of jewelry. All right, so this is the end result of creating my Tainsky Steampunk jewelry set. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. And if you wish to, I've just recently put up a donate button or a donate link on my channel, so check that out if you wish to do so. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest of hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.